what have we got when we look around the world at the moment, the upside-down, topsy-turvy world of the 21st century? Well, you've got Justin Trudeau over there in Canada threatening to execute people's dogs if they don't abide by a mandatory vaccination rule, and then caricature anyone who has an issue with this as some kind of terrorist, whereas over here, our Prime Minister is lifting the restrictions surrounding COVID. I'm afraid it's that word again, unprecedented, that I've got to use here, because that's exactly what we've just been through. 2 years of hell, regardless of what you think about that. 2 years of hell, 2 years of turmoil, disturbance, frustration. We've seen people we love die. We've seen others severely hospitalised. We've seen many, many more get through it and survive. But whatever our own experience, we've all been witness to something we never thought we would. The country literally locked down. The prices that have been paid for this are now well known, of course. There's all the obvious stuff: decimation of business, mental health issues for the young and the old, education stopped in its tracks, and hospital lists now through the roof. Boris Johnson, though, today will hail a moment of pride for the nation as he announces the end of all remaining coronavirus restrictions in England. It's expected that Wales and Scotland and Northern Ireland will follow suit very soon. Do you believe? Let me put it like this. Do you believe this is the end? 0344 499 1000. You see, when I look on social media, it's the worst place to look in this respect, because all the people who have what you might call alternative theories about this will continue to post theories on why they would back that up. It's a little bit like, I was thinking this about the world of the arguments around racism and the issues that need to be addressed around racism. We seem to almost be exclusively arguing with the digital universe on this, namely Twitter, which has become the final arbiter, the final editor of everything we discuss, what gets the green light, what gets the no-go zone, all seems to come via Twitter. Not even Facebook, or mostly it's on the Twitter that we have this idea. So we look at, when I look at things like BLM Take the Knee, most of that, as far as I can ascertain, not exclusive, most of that kind of comes really from what is happening online in social media. What was that video game, Ryan? Really early doors, where you lived in a parallel universe. There was another life or something like that. Was it called Second Life? A few years back, something of that order. Where I think he's going to have to look it up. He's not that game savvy, Ryan. And it wasn't anything spectacular, but it's kind of like we've got this strange thing over there, which is the Twitter sphere and social media, and it should sort of be left there, and every now and again you can have a little look in and just see how deranged and dysfunctional it is, and everyone with a wacky theory, whether it's, what's it called? It was Second Life, that was the thing. Anyone's got a wacky theory or an objectionable theory, whether it's about racism or vaccinations or whatever it happens, you'll find it there. But the rule of thumb should be that you ignore that and just kind of get on with real life and speak to real people. And that doesn't mean the majority are right on everything, and it doesn't mean the minority aren't right on some things. But broadly speaking, you won't really get many answers. You'll get 1,000 answers, which ultimately would just raise 1,000 more questions via social media. So when we talk about whether you believe this is the end, if you look at Twitter and you will see all manner of very grand and embroidered posts and theories on things, and who's appearing on Joe Rogan this week, and this is the real story, and all of that over there is nonsense. But there are times when you're forgiven, given the madness of what we've gone through. I mentioned it to Kevin O'Sullivan a second ago. Do you believe this is the end? And we'll open up the lines on this now, 0344 499 1000. Because this is kind of Freedom Day. Thursday will be Freedom Day. Boris announces it today. He's still dotting the I's and crossing the T's, we are told. And then Thursday, that's it. We're out of here, kids. We're back to semblance. Not a semblance. We're back to normality. I'm sure we had one last year. Didn't we have a Freedom Day last year? And we might have even had one the year before, dare I say? I feel we've had a couple. I sense some groundhogness in this Freedom Day, which is why I raised the question as to whether you believe this. Do you believe this is the end? 0344 499 1000. The cool cats over there in Twitterland certainly don't believe it's the end. So the Prime Minister will emphasise the importance of personal responsibility instead of government intervention. He unveils his plan for the country to live with COVID. There should be a fanfare around this. It includes a drive to end mass working from home. Good luck with that. Vaccines will be used for the foreseeable future to maintain a high rate of immunity in the population. Speaking before the publication of the plan, he said it will mark a moment of pride after one of the most difficult periods in the country's history as we begin to learn to live with COVID. Would you at any level describe getting your freedoms back as a moment of pride? I can kind of hear where he's going. He's going to thank the British people. You've all been absolutely fantastic, and now you can go to the pub without worrying. You haven't got to wear a mask. You haven't even got to isolate if you've got COVID, for goodness sake. That's arguably the one rule that pretty much everybody thought might be a little bit sensible. So here it is. This is where we're at. He says it would not be possible without the efforts of so many. The NHS, who delivered life-saving vaccine rollouts at phenomenal speed, our world-leading scientists and experts, and the general public for their commitment to protecting themselves and their loved ones. 0344 499 1000. Boris Johnson says, and will emphasise later today, the pandemic is not over. But thanks to the incredible vaccine rollout, we are now one step closer towards a return to normality and finally giving people back their freedoms while continuing to protect ourselves and others. Here's the thing. No matter how much you understand that and possibly agree with that, don't ever be thanking a politician for having your freedoms back. Don't ever doff your cap to Boris or anyone else who says, there you go, you got your freedoms back. That's the default position. Should be the default position of all of us as functioning human beings in a liberal democracy. These are our freedoms. And they were suspended for a period of time. It is not a moment of pride to have them back. It is not a big thank you fest to Boris Johnson to have them back. It's what anybody with a brain should expect at any time. The most controversial aspect of this, as I mentioned, by Boris Johnson, will be the decision to scrap the legal requirement to self-isolate after testing positive for the virus. It's expected to be replaced by guidance. So, now I get that. I think most people, if you've got a dose of the COVIDs and you're feeling pretty ropey, and you have a test, you do your own test and you realise, well, I've got COVID, you're probably not going to go out. You're going to use your own noggin to decide that it wouldn't be particularly sensible to start, rubbing shoulders and pressing the flesh with mates and hugs with loved ones and the like. So you will use your own responsibility. As Boris Johnson said, we begin to learn to live with COVID and we continue to protect ourselves using our own common sense, as it were. Now, the Labour Party have said it's too early to end self-isolation and demanded that the Prime Minister publish scientific evidence before making the move. And I wonder, this business of delaying the Cabinet meeting, where he will inform the Cabinet precisely what he's going to say, is perhaps based on a bit of that. Wes Streeting, the Shadow Health Secretary, said at this stage it's not the right thing to do. It should be added, though, that we understand that Northern Ireland and Scotland and Wales are likely to follow in the next 2 weeks. So I don't quite know, bearing in mind Wales is run by a Labour administration, Scotland, the SNP, who I think it might be pushing it these days, but I think have more in common with the Labour front bench than the Tory front bench. So Wes Streeting may well be wrong on this one. The thing I'd like to ask you is whether you believe it. When I look at social media and I see people saying, no, this is just the end of phase 1. Phase 2 comes in soon. The WEF and all manner of other shady cartels. Bill Gates. Why is Bill Gates with the World Health Authority man this weekend? Tedros. Why was he there? Bill and Ted. And their excellent pharmaceutical adventure. What was going on there? Why? Why was he there? Well, because he's kind of like a billionaire that funds vaccines all over the show. I think that's probably why he was there. It's a world he knows better than most. Why would the WHO be there? Well, why would they not be there? Whatever shortcomings there might be in both of those players, why would they not be there? So you read those kind of posts and you think there is still a belief. And I really don't want to dwell on conspiracy theories. And I know that all conspiracy theories, there's usually a kernel of truth buried in there somewhere. But the upshot of all of this let's ask just ordinary, sensible members of the public, you and me. But when Boris Johnson stands up in Parliament, around about 4:30 we understand it will be now, this afternoon, you'll hear it live here on Talk Radio with Rob on the Drive Time Show, when he stands up and says, this is it, like Freedom Day is here, come Thursday, all the restrictions go, it's up to you to be personally responsible. Are you convinced that is the end of this story?